Hello and welcome. This is a guide on what to do when you're at max supply. So you're maxed out. Many players just continue what they're doing, banking thousands of resources in the process. This isn't inherently bad, but essentially it's a waste because you can be spending that money, and if you can't spend that money making an army, you should still be doing something with it, and you don't actually need that much money at this point, so you should actually get rid of some workers to make a bigger army. The strats, the things I'm about to tell you right now, are not really necessary in duels, but they're extremely useful in solos when you have to cover all the bases yourself. So what should you do? You should spend resources on static defense or structures to stall, depending on the type of mission. You should get more production structures so you can replace losses more quickly, and you should get rid of workers so you can get more army supply. For all commanders, when you start floating 1,000 to 1,500 minerals at max supply, sacrifice some workers so that you get to about optimal mining, which is 14 in the main and 10 at the natural. When you're floating 3 to 4,000, then you sacrifice even more. You can also sacrifice workers on gas, especially if you don't need that much gas. On maps where you defend an objective or stall, you make structures to stall if you think static defense won't be able to kill the enemies. So you make E-Base as Terran, Evolution Chambers as Zerg, and Cyber Cores as Protoss. If you can make a lot of static defense and you think it'll be strong enough to kill the enemies, then you should do that instead. However, if you just want to stall time, because the wave is going to be way bigger than that, then you make these buildings. On other maps, you will make static defenses where attack waves might go, and you make structures to stall late game attack waves so that you can all in on the objective if necessary. This is more useful on maps like Rifts to Core Hall, where you just go all in on the last wave and you don't want to fight the late 7-7 wave. For SCVs, you want to drag click a bunch of workers or control click some workers in your main or natural, then you shift build E-Base everywhere on the map. It works well with sacrificing workers, so you can kind of do both at the same time. For drones, you want to change your worker rally away from the minerals. The default hotkey is G, so you just rally a bunch of new drones to the center of the map, select all the idle workers, and just shift build evolution chambers everywhere. Of course, if there isn't creep there, then you will just build hatcheries. For probes, you just need one idle probe, you build pylons everywhere, and then you come back later and then build cyber cores. If you don't have time to build the pylons then come back, just build nexuses. Or if you're really busy and you don't want to do that, you build nexuses. For Raynor, P0 or P2, you will first make more barracks or factories depending on which kind of composition you're going for. Starports if you're going for Vikings as well. And you can spawn camp with spider mines and missile turrets. You can stall with E-Base. And because you have mules, you can sacrifice more SCVs, but you don't want to sacrifice too many because Bio Raynor tends to suffer losses, so you'll need this money to replace them. For P1, you don't want to go below optimal saturation because he doesn't have mules to get extra money. P1 can support 7 Raxes, which is 3 tech labs, 4 reactors. Every 1,000 minerals you float, you just get another Rax. So as you keep getting more minerals, you just keep making more barracks. And you can get another orbital command if you need the scans. For P3, you make starports for production, and you should have about 20 supply in vultures. You can use vultures to spawn camp points with spider mines and also make missile turrets with SCVs. You should stall with starports rather than E-Base as P3 because they don't cost gas and they have more HP than E-Base. You can sacrifice more SCVs just like with P0 or P2. For Kerrigan, you can make more Omega Worms. Of course, not if you're P1. Just make a lot more Omega Worms, make 1 to 2 more hatches, and then 1 to 2 more queens to inject those hatches. And you can mass static defense spine spores at just a stall, or like at spawn points. You stall with evolution chambers. For Artanis, make an extra robo or Stargate if you're going air. Make it extra rollable no matter what because the observers are going to be useful, and make a lot more warp gates. Mass photon cannons where you need to be in multiple places at once, and you can stall with cyber cores if necessary. For Swan, make extra factories or starports for production, not floating factories. You can make a separate group of floating factories. You can lift them for vision or leave them on the ground to stall. And you can mass static defense. For Swan, massing static defense might be a better idea since his static defense is actually really good, not like regular photon cannons. For Zagara, you make 1 to 2 more hatcheries and 1 to 2 more queens, mass static defense, stall with evolution chambers, just like Kerrigan. For Vorazun, make a forward nexus. You should do this anyways, but you should definitely do this at 200. If you make a forward nexus, your shadow guards and other invisible units will revive closer to the action. Make extra stargates and extra warp gates. And just like with Artanis, you mass photon cannons where you need to be multiple places at once, and you can stall with cyber cores. For Karax, make extra stargates and warp gates depending on what you're going for. Of course, get robos if you're going for robo units, and you can mass static defense. So just like with Swan, you probably will just mass static defense instead of with cyber cores, but in some rare cases, you might want to use cyber cores rather than fight the enemy. For Abathur, make 1 extra hatchery. He floats tons of minerals, so make lots of static D and then stall with evolution chambers. For Alarak, make extra warp gates, make an extra robo if you're making Wrathwalkers, and stall with cyber cores. You don't really want to mass static D. You probably want a few cannons, but not too many because overcharge is good. For Nova, you don't want to go below optimal saturation because minerals will always be useful. And you can stall with E-base. If you're floating like several thousand minerals, you want to stall the enemies with E-base. You can spawn camp with spider mines, although they're not as plentiful as Raynor's spider mines. For Stukov, if you're using P1, make 2 extra factories or starports. And then for P3, make 1 extra factory or starport and actually make barracks. You want barracks because you want to be able to replace your army instantly. So sometimes in the middle of a fight, you lose a lot of units, then you can have like another 20 to 30 infested marines instantly from your barracks. You should also move them forward to where the action is. You can stall with E-base or barracks. So the barracks that you built can also be used to stall. For Phoenix, make 2 to 3 extra robos, 2 to 3 extra stargates, and 5 to 6 extra gateways for more shells. And you stall with stargates rather than cyber cores because you pay the same amount, but they have more HP, slightly more. For Dahaka, you make as many primal worms as possible and make 1 to 2 extra primal wardens. Because Dahaka's static defense uses supply, you actually probably have to sacrifice a lot of drones. And if you are pretty sure you're not going to lose more units, you just sacrifice close to all your drones when you have like more than 5,000 resources. For Han and Horner, you don't want to go too low in SCVs because you will need to replace your losses. Save your money for Horner units because if you have a lot of money, you can just replace your lost Han units with instant battle cruisers. If you need to stall, use E-base, and Han and Horner loves stalling. For Tychus, once you have gotten all the gear upgrades and finished all the weapons and armor upgrades, just take all the SCVs off gas. You don't need them anymore. Reviving a dead outlaw only takes minerals, so you don't need gas anymore. Stall with E-base and pretty much don't use auto turrets. You can have some for assistance, but they're kind of useless, so you're better off spending that money on E-base. Or Zeratul, don't go below optimal saturation because you will always have a use for the minerals. You can mass cannons, you can summon the Legion more often, and if you need to stall, you should use cyber cores. For most cases, you will just mass cannons, but sometimes you'll want a few cyber cores to take some hits. For Stepman, make 1 to 2 extra hatcheries, mass static defense, and stall with evolution chambers if necessary. And for Manx, make extra CCs. You can salvage a few bunkers every time you make an extra CC, and you can also make empty ESOs because they will still be helpful. Stall with E-base if you need to. I'm sorry to all the SCVs, drones, and probes that will be lost as a result of this guide. So that's it for this lesson. Like and subscribe if you like content like this, and share this with other players who don't know what they're doing at 200 supply. And I'll see you in the next lesson.